Hey, how's it going, everybody, and welcome back into another episode here for Week 12, or aka Thanksgiving week here in the United States. We've got those extra games on Thursday, which is going to make our decisions a lot more important early on in the week here. You've got Wednesday waiver wire. You got to get your pickups in there and then set those lineups right away because players are going to lock in pretty fast. And before you know it, Thanksgiving afternoon has already begun. You're visiting with your families. And then you realize that you've got some players who should not be in your lineups in there, and that's going to create some disasters for teams this week. So let's try and avoid that. Let's get these names out there and make sure you guys have all the information you need. Feel free to drop those questions down in the comment section below, and I'll get back and help out as many of you as possible with your individual team decisions that need to be made here for this week. So with that being said, to not wasting more time, hit the intro, and let's get this thing started. Alright, so these are some players I really like this week as flex lineup streams in some of those 8 or 10 man leagues. Otherwise, in our 12, 14, 16 man leagues, I think that these players have the potential to crack into the top 24 of the post-weekly rankings. So actually, when we have the production numbers for these players, they are certainly going to be wide receiver 2 or flex level lineup plays if they do what I think they can here in these favorable matchups this week. So I'm loving the upside the most in particular. Now, obviously, we wouldn't be putting the players on the list if they were weekly lineup studs, but the case here is that I think that there's some great upside to be had, so we're going to try and take advantage of that and, again, make the best choices for our lineups here in Week 12. So T. Higgins of the Cincinnati Bengals taking on the Pittsburgh Steelers, the first name I really like and get excited about this week. I think T. Higgins has an opportunity to go out and make some plays here against the Steelers defense, which has been susceptible to some plays and some passes downfield this season. The Bengals last week were very run-centric. They were able to get the job done and have some very good productivity with Joe Mixon against the Las Vegas Raiders, and they really didn't have to pass all that much. Even Jamar Chase, who did find his way into the end zone yet again, was able to salvage some fantasy production. But outside of that, the wide receiver group wasn't overly productive in that matchup. So this week in a game, a division rivalry matchup against a team that I think is going to keep this thing more competitive, I think that Pittsburgh is going to come out a little bit hot after that tough loss to the Chargers where they rallied back late but just couldn't finish off the deal. I think this will be a closely contested football game. So I'm liking T. Higgins here. Obviously, defenses are paying a lot more attention to Jamar Chase and the work he's doing in the passing game. That opens things up for a talent like T. Higgins and gives them the opportunity to see the opposing team's number 2 defensive back assignment at best on most plays. Now, every once in a while, again, you'll see teams motion and create mismatches, but overall, T is going to be seeing lighter coverage than Jamar Chase, see less safety shading over to his direction on the field. And if he can get deep, get loose in the back end of the secondary, make a big play. We saw Mike Williams do it last week. A blown coverage assignment resulted in a big 6-point house call for Mike Williams. T. Higgins could do something similar here this week. Now, I don't know if he's necessarily quite the deep ball threat that a Mike Williams is, but he's another big-bodied, talented receiver with a large frame that can catch passes in the red zone. I think he's quite the target down there. He hasn't been used quite enough in that phase for my liking this season, as we saw him do very good things in his rookie year inside the 20-yard line, but the opportunity is still there. Again, I like T's upside this week, and I think that we can get ourselves some quality production from him in this matchup against the Steelers. Brandin Cooks, Houston taking on the Jets this week. Cooks was another guy I loved last week as well, but who could have predicted what ended up happening between the Texans and the Titans last week? That was an odd game to watch. The Titans field was sloppy, it was wet, it was raining for a while in that game, and Tennessee turned the football over a whopping 5 times, Ryan Tannehill having 4 interceptions on his own part. And for what some might argue to be the league worst team, roster, franchise, whatever the case might be, the Houston Texans walked out there and stunned the Titans. Now, I was not of the camp of people that thought the Titans would be the same team they were with Derrick Henry, post Derrick Henry, but this was still a shocking loss and not something that I expected to see. The Texans did not have to pass the football. They weren't in need of doing anything spectacular to stay in this football game. They ran the football 18 times with Rex Burkhead alone and were able to just widely control the clock. Brandin Cooks only ran 23 routes in that contest. And overall, again, they were just not trying to push the football downfield. Sloppy conditions, rain, we've seen that be a real fancy killer throughout this year. I think Cooks against the Jets this week has a better opportunity to get that track speed back on display, to stretch the field and get back to Tyrod Taylor, targeting him at high clips. Cooks is a talented player, and I'll say this again, I've said it many times this season, he's far and away the best offensive weapon on this Texans offense, and at any time that he's on the field, he's probably the most talented guy on that offense out there. So I love what Brandin Cooks has, the potential here. I don't think that the Texans could potentially put up a fight again in this game. It's kind of awkward that the Titans have lost to both the Jets and the Texans so far this season. Those teams now facing off this week. Zach Wilson will be starting. Robert Saleh announced that it's his first game back since that injury that has kept him sidelined for, I believe, the last 4 weeks now. So there's a chance if Zach Wilson looks a little rusty, makes some rookie mistakes, that the Texans are able to jump out in front again in this matchup. But Cooks' talent, field stretching ability, his upside, I love it all this week. And I think he can blow past this Jets secondary enough times or get enough volume headed his direction to have a productive outing. Brandin Aiyuk for the San Francisco 49ers. Man, do I love myself some Brandin Aiyuk. He is such a talented player and so much fun to watch. It was really heart-wrenching to see the struggles he had early on in the year, just not quite 100% healthy. But man, he's been something to see in the games when he's been back and really, truly back to himself, because he was suiting up and playing in those games, but his snap count percentage was down, his targets were down, his routes run were down. All that stuff is trending back in a positive direction. He caught all 7 of his passes for 85 yards and a touchdown last week. The week prior, when the 49ers controlled the ball against the Rams, he wasn't getting the ball past his way, but I was just watching on the TV the routes he was running and the separation he was getting from the defensive backs. He actually had them tipping over and whatnot on some of his routes. He just wasn't able to get the football thrown his direction. He's such a talented, such a potentially special player. They've got Deebo Samuel in that offense as well. And I think that Shanahan right now is doing a good job of finding different ways to get his different playmakers the ball. Deebo's production in the receiving game was down last week, but they've got him out there playing running back and really making a difference and an impact as an incredibly explosive, large human being out of the backfield who can make plays in that facet of the game. You've also got George Kittle out there catching passes, and now Aiyuk, we're seeing his talent on full display. So this 49er offense is a heck of a lot of fun for fantasy purposes. I'm cheering for the success and productivity of all 3 of those players. This week against Minnesota, you get yourself the 31st ranked defense against the pass and against fantasy wide receivers. It's a good matchup. It's a good opportunity. And with the other assets on the field, you can't divert too much attention Brandin Aiyuk's way. He's going to beat whoever he's being covered by. And if he gets the ball, or at least has the opportunity to see the ball come his direction, he's going to make plays once again here in Week 12. DJ Moore, the Carolina Panthers taking on Miami. This is one where I almost feel that for a lot of teams, unless you have an excessive luxury of depth on your roster, you almost have to start DJ Moore this week. He's not a wide receiver 1. It looked like that was going to be the case early on this season, where we could potentially get some fringe top 12 numbers from the overall holistic scope of the season. That was obviously, for that 6-week stretch of time, really pushed out of view and has really been an evolving situation. Cam Newton seems to be a good thing here, though. Last week, 5 receptions on 7 targets for Moore, caught a touchdown, past 50 yards receiving. Again, not going to be someone who I think is going to blow the brakes off of your fantasy opponent and win you your week individually, but DJ is still a player who I think has top 24 weekly potential here, and in a matchup against the Dolphins, which I think he has a great opportunity to make plays against in the secondary. If Cam is no Aaron Rodgers, Patrick Mahomes, Tom Brady level elite ball placement type quarterback, but he is better than Sam Darnold. He is a step up in that phase of things, I would say. 3 touchdowns total to no turnovers for Cam in that matchup against Washington last week. I liked what I saw. And if that can just be the steady trend going forward here, if DJ can get us between 10 and 12 points in half PPR scoring, I think at the end of the day, it's not fantastic production, but that's something we can be satisfied with. And again, I have a hard time sitting him now this week in a good matchup after seeing what he did in his first performance with Cam Newton as the official starter. So DJ Moore, someone who I like this week, not overly expecting too much out of him, but I do think that the trend will be more in a positive direction here from this point going forward the rest of this season. And then Elijah Moore. This is another absolute beast. I love Elijah Moore, the talent. I cannot talk enough about how much I've been impressed by what I've seen from him. Joe Flacco gets it. The 2 games when he's been under center for any portion of the game, Elijah Moore has been fed the football and given chance after chance after chance to make plays. That's the veteran savvy we love to see out of Joe Flacco. Now, Zach Wilson is, and this could play an impact in this game. The one thing that is in the back of my mind here that while I love the matchup, while I love the talent, I love the production, the snap count percentage, we'll get into all that stuff in just a second here. Zach Wilson could be a potential risk factor or difference maker to consider when setting your individual team's lineup for this week. So what we've seen so far this year from quarterbacks coming off injuries of multiple weeks is they're a little rusty. They're not always quite as clean, quite as crisp as they were prior to that injury. That makes sense. You're not playing football. You're recovering from injury. The other thing is the rookie factor here. Joe Flacco showed us that Elijah Moore can put up elite upside numbers, but we haven't seen that consistently from Zach Wilson. So that's something that's going to continue to have to evolve here this week at practice. The coaches are going to have to make an emphasis to get more of the ball. But at this point, they're crazy if they don't continue to do that. He played 80% of the snaps last week. It's a great snap count share for a player who plays a very similar role to a Jamison Crowder in this offense. But Elijah Moore is a heck of a lot more explosive. 11 targets last week, a season-high 141 yards and a touchdown reception, 25 fantasy points in half PPR. I'm loving everything I'm seeing in the last month plus. 8.5 or more fantasy points in each of the last 5 straight games. 4 more in this Jets receiving core. He's taking over. To me, he looks more and more like the number 1, ahead of even a Corey Davis. I love Elijah Moore's upside and overall potential to finish off this season in great fashion against the Houston Texans team this week in particular, who is only number 24th ranked against the pass, and I think Moore can exploit the corners in the secondary. Alrighty, those were our 5 must-start wide receivers for this week's action. Again, remember to drop your questions, comments, concerns in the comment section below, and let us know your individual situation for setting your lineup this week. We can hopefully provide our 2 cents to give you guys some advice for this week's action. So thank you all so much for watching. Make sure to leave it with a like before you guys head on out today, and click that subscribe button if you're new around here, and go check out some of our other episodes we've posted for today in Week 12 content, and we'll see you all there. Peace out.